Hi, I'm Edward Klair. 4 days ago, my brother showed up at my apartment, not alone, but with her. My fiancée. Ex-fiancée. They stood there on my doorstep like they'd rehearsed it, hands intertwined, faces painted with something between pity and triumph. But rewind just 2 weeks before that, and I was the golden boy at Harmon Tech Solutions. Senior analyst. On track for VP of operations. Engaged to the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. My brother? He was the charming screw-up, bouncing between startups, always one failed pitch away from asking me for rent money. So what changed in 14 days? What series of calculated moves turned my entire world inside out and left me standing in an empty office with a resignation letter and a smile nobody understood? Well, let's just say it started with one stolen presentation and ended with me launching a company that's now bleeding their market share dry. Want to know what my brother said when he realized I wasn't going to beg? When he saw my name on that Forbes 30 under 30 list 6 months later? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. It started on a Tuesday. One of those gray mornings where the sky looks like it forgot to wake up. I was in my kitchen, tie half knotted, scrolling through emails on my phone while the coffee machine sputtered and hissed behind me. My apartment was small but clean, the kind of place that said I'm focused, I'm building something, just give me time. Vanessa had stayed over the night before. She was still asleep in the bedroom, her engagement ring catching the dim light from the window. We'd been engaged for 8 months. The wedding was set for spring. Everything felt like it was finally clicking into place. My phone buzzed. A calendar reminder. Leadership meeting at 9. I had something big prepared. A market expansion strategy I'd been refining for 3 months. If it landed the way I expected, the VP role was mine. I could feel it. I grabbed my coffee, checked my reflection one last time, and headed out. The office was a sleek glass tower in the heart of downtown Seattle. Harmon Tech Solutions occupied floors 12 through 15. I worked on 14, tucked into a corner office that wasn't quite executive level but close enough to taste it. When I walked in that morning, the energy felt different. People glanced at me, then looked away quickly. Sarah from accounting gave me a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. I brushed it off. Pre-meeting jitters, maybe. Everyone knew today mattered. I walked into the conference room at 8:55. My folder was crisp, my notes color-coded, my confidence high. Then I saw him. My brother. Edward Klair. Sitting at the far end of the table in a charcoal suit I'd never seen before, laughing easily with Greg Harmon, our CEO. My stomach dropped. Ethan didn't work here. He'd never worked here. He didn't even work in tech. Last I'd heard, he was trying to launch some blockchain wellness app that made no sense to anyone, including him. I slid into my seat, confusion prickling at the back of my neck. Ethan caught my eye and smiled. Not the brotherly grin I'd grown up with. Something sharper. Something new. Greg stood and clapped his hands together. All right, everyone, let's get started. Before we dive into quarterly reports, I want to introduce someone special. Edward Klair has been consulting with us behind the scenes for the last 2 months, and frankly, his insights have been game-changing. Today, he's going to walk us through a bold new market expansion strategy. The air left the room. My folder suddenly felt like dead weight in my hands. 2 months. He'd been here for 2 months, and I didn't know. Greg continued. Edward, I know you've been working on something similar, and we appreciate that. But Ethan's approach has a level of innovation we can't ignore. We'll hear from him first, then open the floor. I looked at Ethan. He was already standing, remote in hand, pulling up a slideshow on the massive screen behind him. The first slide appeared. Market expansion through vertical integration and strategic AI partnerships. I froze. That was my title. Word for word. The subtitle. A roadmap for sustainable growth in emerging markets. Also mine. I'd written it 3 weeks ago. I'd sent it in a draft to Vanessa for feedback because she had a marketing background. She told me it was brilliant. She told me it needed one small tweak in the third section. Ethan clicked to the next slide. There was the tweak. Exactly where she'd suggested it. My hands went numb. He moved through the presentation with ease, hitting every beat I'd planned, citing sources I'd found, using metaphors I'd crafted at 2 in the morning when the ideas were still raw. The room nodded along. Greg leaned forward, eyes bright. A few executives scribbled notes. When Ethan finished, the applause was immediate. Greg stood again. This is exactly the kind of forward-thinking leadership we need. Ethan, I think we'd be fools not to bring you on board officially. Let's talk about a role that fits this vision. I sat there, silent, watching my future dissolve in real time. No one asked to hear my version. No one even looked at me. After the meeting, I tried to catch Ethan in the hallway. He brushed past me, phone to his ear, pretending not to notice. I went back to my desk and opened my laptop. My fingers were shaking as I typed out an email to Greg. Subject line: urgent. Regarding this morning's presentation. I explained everything. The timeline, the drafts, the conversations with Vanessa. I attached files with metadata showing creation dates. I hit send and waited. 20 minutes later, Greg's assistant called me into his office. I walked in, hopeful, ready to clear this up like adults. Greg was behind his desk, hands folded. Ethan was sitting in the chair across from him. Edward, Greg said slowly, Ethan's told me about some tension between you two. Family stuff. I get it. But accusing him of theft in a professional setting? That's serious. I opened my mouth, but Greg raised a hand. Look, I've seen the files you sent. The dates match, sure, but Ethan's been verbally walking me through these concepts for weeks. You might have documented it first, but ideas aren't copyrighted, Edward. Execution is what matters. And frankly, his delivery today was flawless. Ethan said nothing. He didn't have to. He just sat there, face neutral, like a man who'd already won. I left that office and went straight to the bathroom. I locked myself in a stall and stared at the tile floor, trying to piece together how this had happened. Then it hit me. Vanessa. She had access to everything. My laptop password, my cloud drives, my rough drafts. We lived together half the week. I thought we were building a life. But she'd been feeding him everything. I didn't go back to my desk. I walked out of the building, got in my car, and drove to the apartment. Her car was in the lot. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. When I opened the door, she was on the couch, laptop open, glass of wine in hand. She looked up, surprised. You're home early. I stood in the doorway. You gave him my work. Her face didn't change. Not right away. Then, slowly, something shifted. A mask sliding off. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't, I said, voice flat. Don't insult me. She closed the laptop. Set down the wine. Edward, you're upset. I get it. But Ethan came to me. He needed help. He was struggling, and you've always had everything so easy. I just thought I was helping him find his footing. I stared at her. Easy? I've worked 16-hour days for 3 years. I've earned every inch of ground I'm standing on. She stood now, crossing her arms. And Ethan's your brother. Family helps family. You should be proud of him. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't her being naive. She'd chosen him. Maybe not romantically, not yet, but in every way that mattered, she'd chosen his side over mine. I pulled the engagement ring from my pocket. I'd been carrying it since that morning, planning to get it resized. I held it out. She looked at it, then at me. Her eyes were dry. You're being dramatic. I set the ring on the coffee table. Get your things out by the weekend. I turned and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just left. I spent that night in a motel off the highway, the kind with flickering neon and a vending machine that only took exact change. I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone, watching the group chat with my family light up. My mother had texted. Heard about the great news with Ethan. So proud. My father sent a thumbs up emoji. My younger sister, Claire, wrote, finally, Ethan's getting his life together. I didn't respond. I just turned off my phone and stared at the wall. By morning, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to fight them in their world. I was going to build my own. I drove back to the office, walked straight to HR, and submitted my resignation. Effective immediately. The woman behind the desk blinked at me. Are you sure? You're up for a promotion. I smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't touch your eyes. I'm sure. 2 hours later, I was cleaning out my desk. Ethan walked by, coffee in hand, and stopped. You're really leaving? I didn't look up. He stepped closer. Look, I didn't mean for it to go down like this. You're talented, Edward. You'll land on your feet. I kept packing. He sighed. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I finally looked at him. You stole my work. You took my fiancée. And now you're taking my job. What exactly am I making hard? He didn't answer. Just walked away. I left the building with a single box of personal items and a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't angry. I was focused. That afternoon, I met with an old colleague from my previous company, Jordan Hayes. He was a software architect, brilliant, cynical, and always 2 steps ahead of the market. We met at a dim cafe near Pike Place. He slid a beer across the table before I even sat down. Heard you quit. Word travels fast. I took a sip. I need your help. He leaned back. I'm listening. I told him everything. Not the emotional parts, just the mechanics. The stolen presentation. The gap in the market I'd identified. The execution plan Harmon Tech was too slow to implement. Jordan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he smiled. So you want to burn them? I shook my head. I want to beat them. He pulled out a laptop. Let's talk strategy. Over the next 2 hours, we sketched out the foundation of what would become Klair Dynamics. A consulting firm specializing in AI-driven market solutions for mid-sized tech companies. The exact niche Harmon was trying to corner but didn't have the agility to execute. We'd be faster, leaner, cheaper, and better. Jordan knew 4 other developers who were fed up with corporate bureaucracy. I had savings and severance. We had enough to survive 6 months if we were smart. That night, I filed the LLC paperwork. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone except the 5 people who'd agreed to join me. 1 week later, Vanessa called. I was in my new office, a converted loft space in South Lake Union, surrounded by whiteboards and half-assembled desks. I almost didn't pick up. But curiosity won. Hello? Her voice was small. Edward, we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. Please. Just meet me for coffee. I'm getting married. The line went silent. Then, quietly, she said, I know. I hung up. 2 days later, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. Sweetheart, we're having a family dinner on Sunday. Ethan's got some big news. It would mean a lot if you came. I deleted it. Sunday came and went. I didn't go. I stayed in the office, working through pitch decks and contract templates. Jordan walked in around 8 with pizza. You're going to burn out. I took a slice. I'll rest when we launch. He sat across from me. You know this might not work, right? I looked at him. Then we'll have tried. He grinned. That's the most unhinged thing I've ever heard. I'm in. 3 weeks after I quit, we landed our first client. A mid-sized logistics company looking to streamline their supply chain with predictive AI. It was exactly the kind of project Harmon Tech would have taken 6 months to scope. We did it in 3 weeks. The client was thrilled. They referred us to 2 others. Then those 2 referred us to 3 more. Within 2 months, we had a backlog. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I hired 2 more people. Then 4. We moved to a bigger space. I barely slept, but I didn't care. Every contract signed was a nail in Harmon's coffin. Every client we pulled was one they'd never get back. 4 months in, I got a text from Klair. She was the only one in my family I still spoke to, and even that was sparse. The message was short. Ethan got promoted to VP. Mom and Dad threw him a party. Thought you should know. I stared at the text for a long time. Then I typed back. Good for him. She didn't respond. That same week, an article came out in a local business journal. Seattle startup Klair Dynamics shakes up tech consulting. They interviewed me. I didn't mention Harmon by name. I didn't have to. Everyone in the industry knew. The journalist asked me what motivated me. I smiled. I said, I got tired of waiting for permission to be great. The article went viral in tech circles. We got 50 new inquiries in 3 days. Then, 6 months after I quit, Forbes called. They were doing a feature on young entrepreneurs disrupting traditional industries. They wanted me on the 30 under 30 list. I almost didn't believe it. Jordan screamed when I told him. We celebrated with cheap champagne in plastic cups. The photo shoot was surreal. They posed me in front of our office, arms crossed, confident. The headline read, Edward Klair, the man who quit and won. When the issue dropped, my phone exploded. Old colleagues reached out. Investors wanted meetings. My mother called. I didn't answer. My father sent an email. Subject line, we need to talk. I archived it. Ethan texted. 1 word. Congrats. I blocked the number. 2 weeks later, I was in a board meeting with a potential investor when my assistant knocked. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you. It's urgent. I excused myself and walked to the lobby. There, standing by the front desk, were Ethan and Vanessa. Together. She had a ring on her finger. Not the one I'd given her. A bigger one. Ethan looked uncomfortable. She looked determined. I stopped a few feet away. What do you want? Vanessa stepped forward. We wanted to talk. In person. There's nothing to say. Edward, please, Ethan said. We're family. I looked at him. You stopped being my family the day you stole from me. Vanessa's face flushed. That's not fair. You had everything, Edward. Ethan needed a chance. And you, I said, turning to her, you chose to give him mine. She didn't answer. Ethan cleared his throat. Look, we're getting married next month. We wanted you to know. We wanted to invite you. I laughed. Actually laughed. It wasn't bitter. It was just absurd. You came here to invite me to your wedding? Vanessa's eyes welled up. I thought maybe enough time had passed. I stepped closer. You didn't come here for me. You came here because you saw the Forbes article. You came here because you're realizing I'm not the failure you thought I'd be. And now you want to smooth things over so you don't look like the villains. Ethan bristled. That's not true. Then why now? I asked. Why not 3 months ago? Why not when you got engaged? Because you didn't think I'd matter. Silence. Heavy and thick. Vanessa wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. But I love him, Edward. I nodded slowly. I believe you. I turned to Ethan. And I believe you love her. But that doesn't erase what you did. You didn't just take a job. You took my trust. You took my work. You made me the villain in my own story. And I had to burn everything down just to prove I wasn't. Ethan looked down. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said. And I'm done pretending that doesn't matter just to keep the peace. I walked back toward the hallway, then paused. Don't come here again. If you want to get married, do it. But leave me out of it. I didn't wait for a response. I went back to my meeting. That night, Jordan found me on the roof of our building. I was leaning against the railing, watching the city lights flicker below. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood beside me. Finally, he spoke. They really showed up? I nodded. He let out a low whistle. That takes guts. Or stupidity. I smiled faintly. Probably both. You okay? I thought about it. Yeah. I am. He pulled out his phone. Check your email. I pulled out mine and opened the inbox. There, at the top, was a message from Harmon Tech's head of partnerships. The subject line, meeting request, urgent. I opened it. Mr. Klair, we'd like to discuss a potential collaboration between Harmon Tech Solutions and Klair Dynamics. We've been following your work closely and believe there may be synergies worth exploring. Please let us know your availability. I stared at it. Jordan grinned. They're bleeding clients. They know it. And now they want to work with you. What are you going to say? I closed the email. I'm going to make them wait. He laughed. You're cold, man. I'm not cold. I'm just done being the one who bends. The next morning, I sent a response. Professional. Detached. Thank you for reaching out. I'm currently focused on scaling Klair Dynamics independently, but I appreciate the interest. Perhaps we can revisit this conversation in a year. It was a polite no. But it was also a power move. They'd come to me. And I'd made them wait. Word spread quickly. Within days, 3 of Harmon's former clients reached out to us directly. They'd heard we were the ones making waves. They wanted in. By the end of the month, our revenue had doubled. We hired 10 more people. I moved into a real apartment, one with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the skyline. It was strange, living in a space that felt like success. I'd spent so long grinding that comfort felt foreign. One evening, Klair showed up unannounced. I opened the door, surprised. She looked older, tired. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She walked past me, taking in the apartment. Nice place. Thanks. She sat on the couch, hands in her lap. Mom and Dad are upset. I poured myself water. About what? About you not coming to the wedding. About you shutting us out. I leaned against the counter. I didn't shut anyone out, Klair. I was shut out. She sighed. I know. I know what they did was wrong. But they're still family. Family doesn't steal from each other, I said quietly. She looked down. Ethan feels awful. He told me. Good. She looked up, eyes sharp. You've really moved on, haven't you? I nodded. I had to. She stood. I just wanted to see if you were okay. And you are. So I guess that's it. I walked her to the door. Klair. She turned. I don't hate them. I just can't be around people who don't see my worth. She nodded slowly. I get that. She left. 3 months later, Klair Dynamics was approached by a venture capital firm. They wanted to invest. We took the meeting. They offered $2 million for 15% equity. Jordan wanted to take it. I hesitated. "This is what we've been working for," he said. "I know. But I don't want to lose control." "You won't. This is just fuel." We accepted. The news hit the tech blogs the next day. Klair Dynamics secures seed funding, poised for national expansion. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Proud of you, little brother." I stared at it. Then I deleted it. That weekend, I was having coffee alone when I saw them. Ethan and Vanessa. They were across the street, walking hand in hand, laughing about something. She looked happy. He looked lighter. For a split second, I felt something. Not anger. Not sadness. Just distance. Like watching strangers. They didn't see me. I finished my coffee and left. 1 year after I quit, Harmon Tech Solutions announced layoffs. 20% of their workforce. Ethan's name was on the list of those let go. I heard about it through the grapevine. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt nothing. A week later, he called. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. "Hey. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. I messed up. I was jealous, and I let that turn me into someone I'm not. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know." I listened to it twice. Then I saved it. I didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I kept it. Klair Dynamics kept growing. We opened a second office in San Francisco. Then one in Austin. I hired people who reminded me of myself, hungry, underestimated, ready to prove the world wrong. We became the company I'd always wanted to work for. 2 years in, I was invited to speak at a tech conference. The topic was resilience in entrepreneurship. I stood on that stage, looking out at hundreds of faces, and I told my story. Not all of it. But enough. I talked about being underestimated. About having something stolen. About choosing to build instead of burn. When I finished, the applause was long. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 23, eyes bright. "Thank you," she said. I needed to hear that. What part? That it's okay to walk away from people who don't value you. Even if they're family. I nodded. It's more than okay. Sometimes it's the only way forward. She smiled and walked away. That moment stayed with me. Because it reminded me why I did this. Not for revenge. Not to prove them wrong. But to prove myself right. 3 years after I quit, my mother reached out. Not by text. She showed up at my office. The receptionist buzzed me. "Your mother's here." I sat there for a moment, then walked out. She stood in the lobby, smaller than I remembered. Older. "Edward," she said softly. "Mom. Can we talk?" I led her to a private conference room. We sat across from each other. She folded her hands. "I've been wanting to do this for a while. I just didn't know how." I waited. "I'm sorry. For not standing up for you. For believing Ethan without question. For making you feel like you didn't matter." I looked at her. "Why now?" "Because I was wrong. And because I miss you." I leaned back. "I don't know what you want me to say. I don't want you to say anything. I just wanted you to hear it." She stood. "I know I can't undo what happened. But I hope someday you'll let me try." She left. I sat there alone for a long time. That night, I called Klair. "Did you know she was coming?" "No. But I'm glad she did. I don't know if I can forgive them." "You don't have to. But you also don't have to carry it forever." I thought about that. She was right. Forgiveness wasn't about them. It was about me. And I wasn't there yet. But maybe someday. For years after I quit, Klair Dynamics was valued at $50 million. We were featured in Fast Company, TechCrunch, and Bloomberg. I was 31 years old. I'd rebuilt everything they tried to take. But the strangest part? I didn't think about them anymore. Not Ethan. Not Vanessa. Not even the betrayal. I thought about the people I'd hired. The clients we'd helped. The life I'd built on my own terms. One afternoon, I was walking through the office when I saw a framed quote someone had put up in the break room. "Success is the best revenge." I stared at it. Then I took it down and replaced it with something else. "Success is the best freedom." Because that's what it was. Not revenge. Freedom. The freedom to choose who I became. The freedom to walk away from people who didn't see me. The freedom to build something that mattered. And in the end, that's all I ever wanted. Have you ever had to walk away from family to find yourself? Have you ever been betrayed by the people closest to you and had to rebuild from nothing? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. The thing about building something from scratch is that people expect you to stay humble. They want you to downplay your wins, deflect praise, act like it was all luck and timing. But I didn't build Klair Dynamics on luck. I built it on spite, clarity, and a refusal to let anyone else write my story again. 5 years after I walked out of Harmon Tech, I stopped pretending any of it was accidental. We were no longer the scrappy startup working out of a converted loft. Klair Dynamics had become a legitimate competitor, and Harmon Tech knew it. Our client retention rate was higher. Our turnaround times were faster. Our reputation in the industry was ironclad. I'd built a company culture where people weren't just employees, they were stakeholders in something meaningful. Every hire I made was someone who'd been overlooked, underestimated, or underpaid somewhere else. I gave them equity, autonomy, and respect. In return, they gave me loyalty and results. Jordan was now Chief Technology Officer. He'd been with me since day one, and he'd earned every bit of that title. We'd brought on a Chief Operating Officer named Melissa Tran, a former executive from a competitor who'd grown tired of corporate politics. She was ruthless in the best way, the kind of person who could smell inefficiency from a mile away and cut it out without hesitation. Together, the three of us formed a leadership team that operated like a machine. One morning, Melissa knocked on my office door. I was reviewing contracts for a potential partnership with a healthcare tech firm when she walked in, tablet in hand, expression unreadable. "We need to talk about Harmon." I looked up. "What about them?" "They're losing ground fast. 3 of their senior analysts quit last month. Their stock dropped 6% last quarter. And word is they're looking to sell part of the company to stay afloat." I leaned back in my chair. "How reliable is that word?" "Very. I have a source on their board." Melissa sat down across from me. "They're circling the drain, Edward. And the vultures are starting to notice." I drummed my fingers on the desk. "What are you thinking?" She tilted her head. "I'm thinking we're in a position to make a move." "Acquisition? Merger?" I asked. She shrugged. "Depends on what you want. Do you want to absorb them? Compete them into irrelevance? Or do you want to let someone else pick up the pieces while we keep growing?" I didn't answer right away. The idea of acquiring Harmon Tech had a certain poetic appeal. Taking over the company that had cast me aside, the company my brother had used to humiliate me, would have been the ultimate vindication. But there was something hollow about it too. I'd built Klair Dynamics to prove I didn't need them. Absorbing them felt like going backward. "Let them fall," I said finally. "We'll keep doing what we're doing. If they collapse, we'll pick up their clients. But I'm not interested in owning their mess." Melissa smiled. "Fair enough. But don't be surprised if their board reaches out to you directly." I raised an eyebrow. "Why would they do that?" "Because you're the only person in this industry right now who has the capital, the reputation, and the strategic vision to save them. And they know it." She stood and walked toward the door, then paused. Just be ready, Edward. Opportunities like this don't come around twice. 2 weeks later, I got the call. It was from Gregory Harmon himself. I hadn't spoken to him since the day I resigned. My assistant buzzed me. Mr. Harmon is online too. I stared at the blinking light on my phone for a long moment before picking up. Edward Klair speaking. Edward, Greg's voice was strained, older than I remembered. Thanks for taking my call. I didn't say anything. Just waited. Look, I'll get straight to it. We're in trouble. I know you've heard the rumors. They're true. We're bleeding clients, our leadership team is fractured, and frankly, we're not sure how much longer we can sustain this. I leaned back in my chair. I'm sorry to hear that, Greg. But I'm not sure why you're telling me. Because I want to explore the possibility of a partnership. Or an acquisition. Whatever structure makes sense. We need someone who understands this market, someone with vision. And whether you believe it or not, I've always respected your work. I let the silence hang there for a beat. That's an interesting statement, Greg, considering you promoted the man who stole that work. He sighed heavily. I know. And I regret that. Ethan wasn't what we thought he was. He's gone now, if that matters. It doesn't, I said flatly. This isn't about Ethan. This is about you calling me because you're desperate, not because you value me. If you'd valued me 5 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Fair, he admitted. But desperate or not, the offer stands. I'm asking you to consider it. Not for me. For the people who still work here. For the clients who trust us. For the industry. I almost laughed. You're appealing to my sense of duty? You don't get to do that, Greg. You lost that right when you chose optics over honesty. There was a pause. Then he spoke again, quieter this time. What do you want, Edward? I want you to send me a formal proposal. Full financials, leadership structure, client list, debt obligations, everything. If I'm going to even consider this, I need to see exactly what kind of mess you're asking me to clean up. Done, he said quickly. I'll have it to you by end of week. I hung up without saying goodbye. Jordan found me later that afternoon, standing by the window in my office, looking out over the city. He walked in without knocking, hands in his pockets. Heard Harmon called. I nodded. And? I don't know yet. He came to stand beside me. You know this could be huge, right? If we acquire them, we'd control nearly 40% of the market in the Pacific Northwest. We'd be untouchable. I know. So why do you look like someone just handed you a live grenade? I glanced at him. Because it feels like going back. Like I'm letting them pull me into their orbit again. Jordan shook his head. No. You're not going back. You're deciding whether to let them into yours. There's a difference. Maybe. He clapped me on the shoulder. Whatever you decide, we'll back you. But don't make this about Ethan or Vanessa or your parents. Make it about whether it's the right move for Klair Dynamics. He left. I stayed by the window until the sun set. The proposal arrived 3 days later. It was a thick PDF, over 100 pages of financial data, org charts, and projections. I forwarded it to Melissa and Jordan, then spent the next 2 days combing through every line. The picture it painted was grim. Harmon Tech was hemorrhaging money. Their operational costs were bloated, their client retention was abysmal, and their leadership team had no cohesive vision. Half their senior staff had either quit or been let go in the past year. Their reputation, once sterling, was now tarnished by missed deadlines and underwhelming results. But buried in all that mess was something interesting. They still had contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. Those contracts alone were worth tens of millions annually. If we could stabilize operations and rebuild trust, those clients would stay. And if those clients stayed, we could leverage that credibility to win more. Melissa called an emergency leadership meeting. The three of us sat in the conference room, the proposal projected on the screen. She went through it methodically, highlighting the risks and opportunities. "Here's the bottom line," she said, pointing to a spreadsheet. "If we acquire them, we'll inherit about $12 million in debt. But we'll also gain access to contracts worth $40 million over the next 3 years. The math works if we can turn them around in 18 months. Jordan leaned forward. "That's a big if." "Agreed," Melissa said. "But we've done harder things." I looked at the numbers. "What's the alternative?" "We let them collapse. Their clients scatter. We pick up maybe 30% of them if we're lucky. We grow, but slower. And we miss the chance to dominate the market." She tapped the table. "This is about ambition, Edward. Do we want to be a strong competitor, or do we want to be the undisputed leader?" I stood and walked to the window. The weight of the decision pressed down on me. This wasn't just business. It was personal. It was the company that had cast me aside, the place where my brother had humiliated me, the institution that had taught me I wasn't enough. And now they were asking me to save them. I turned back to Jordan and Melissa. "If we do this, we do it our way. Full restructure. New leadership. New processes. We're not patching holes. We're gutting the ship and rebuilding it." Melissa grinned. "Now you're talking." Jordan nodded. "So we're doing this?" I took a breath. "Yeah. We're doing this." The acquisition took 4 months to finalize. It was a brutal process, full of lawyers, audits, and tense negotiations. Greg Harmon wanted to retain some control, but I shut that down immediately. "If we're buying this company," I told him, "we're buying it outright. No board seats. No advisory roles. You hand over the keys, and you walk away." He didn't like it, but he didn't have a choice. The deal closed on a Tuesday morning in March. Klair Dynamics acquired Harmon Tech Solutions for $18 million, a fraction of what they'd been worth 5 years earlier. The news hit the industry like a bomb. The tech blogs exploded. Edward Klair acquires former employer in stunning reversal of fortune. Some called it poetic justice. Others called it ruthless. I called it business. The day we took over, I walked into the Harmon Tech offices for the first time in 5 years. The building looked the same, but it felt different. Smaller. Less intimidating. I rode the elevator to the 14th floor, the same floor where I'd worked, where I'd been humiliated, where I'd made the decision to leave. The conference room was packed. Former Harmon employees sat nervously, waiting to hear what came next. I walked to the front of the room, Melissa and Jordan flanking me. I didn't smile. I didn't offer pleasantries. I just started talking. "My name is Edward Klair. 5 years ago, I worked here. I was promised a promotion. Instead, I watched someone else take credit for my work, and I was pushed out. So I left. I started my own company. And now, I own this one." The room was silent. You're probably wondering what happens next. Here's the truth. This company is broken. The culture is toxic. The processes are inefficient. The leadership is non-existent. And if we don't fix that, we'll all go down together. I paused. But I didn't buy this company to watch it fail. I bought it because I see potential. You have clients who still believe in you. You have contracts that are worth saving. And you have people in this room who are capable of great work if given the right environment. So here's what's going to change. We're restructuring everything. Some of you will keep your jobs. Some of you won't. If you stay, you'll work harder than you ever have. But you'll also be treated with respect, paid fairly, and given opportunities to grow. If you don't want that, the door is open. No hard feelings. I looked around the room. Questions? A woman in the back raised her hand. What about the people who wronged you? Are you going to retaliate? I shook my head. I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in results. What happened 5 years ago shaped me, but it doesn't define this company moving forward. If you can do the work, I don't care what you did before. Another hand went up, a younger guy near the front. Why should we trust you? Fair question, I said. You shouldn't. Not yet. Trust is earned. So watch what we do over the next 6 months, and then decide. The meeting ended. People filed out slowly, whispering among themselves. Jordan came up beside me. That was intense. I nodded. It needed to be. Over the next 3 months, we gutted Harmon Tech and rebuilt it from the ground up. We let go of 30% of the staff, the dead weight, the people who'd been coasting for years. We promoted from within, elevating junior employees who'd been ignored by the old guard. We renegotiated vendor contracts, streamlined operations, and implemented new project management systems. It was exhausting. There were nights I didn't sleep, days I questioned whether we'd bitten off more than we could chew. But slowly, things started to turn. Client satisfaction scores went up. Projects started finishing on time. Revenue began to stabilize. 6 months after the acquisition, we hosted a company-wide meeting to announce our Q2 results. The numbers were good. Not great, but good. We were profitable for the first time in 18 months. The room erupted in applause. I stood at the front, looking out at the faces, some familiar from the old Harmon days, some new from Klair Dynamics. This is just the beginning, I said. We've stabilized the ship. Now it's time to sail. That night, I got a text from Klair. Saw the news about Harmon. That's incredible, Edward. I'm really proud of you. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Thanks. How's everyone? She replied quickly. Mom and Dad are doing okay. They ask about you sometimes. And Ethan? There was a pause before her next message came through. He's struggling. Lost his job. Vanessa left him a few months ago. He's living with Mom and Dad right now. I set the phone down. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel anything. Just a dull ache where anger used to be. A week later, I was in the office late, reviewing a contract proposal, when security buzzed me. There's someone here to see you. No appointment. Says it's personal. Who? Your brother. My chest tightened. Send him up. I stood and waited by the door. When the elevator opened, Ethan stepped out. He looked different. Thinner. Tired. His clothes didn't fit quite right, like he'd lost weight and hadn't bothered to buy new ones. He stopped a few feet away. Hey. Hey. Can we talk? I stepped aside, gesturing toward my office. He walked in slowly, looking around like he was taking inventory. Nice place. Thanks. We stood there in silence. Finally, he spoke. I heard you bought Harmon. Yeah. That must feel good. I didn't answer. He laughed bitterly. I deserve that. You deserve more than that, I said quietly. He looked at me. I know I screwed up, Edward. I know I hurt you. And I've spent the last 2 years trying to figure out how to say I'm sorry in a way that actually means something. I sat down behind my desk. So say it. He took a breath. I was jealous. You were always the smarter one, the one people believed in. And when I finally got a shot, I didn't care how I got it. I just wanted to prove I could be someone. I wanted Dad to look at me the way he looked at you. I stared at him. Dad never looked at me like anything. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? He was always comparing me to you. Saying I should be more like you, more focused, more driven. And you think I didn't hear the opposite? I said, leaning forward. You think I didn't spend my entire childhood being told I was too cautious, too soft, not bold enough like you? He blinked. I didn't know that. We both got played, I said. By parents who pitted us against each other instead of building us both up. That doesn't excuse what you did. But it explains it. Ethan sat down across from me. I lost everything, Edward. The job, Vanessa, my reputation. I have nothing left. I looked at him, really looked at him. And you think I'm supposed to feel sorry for you? No, he said quickly. I don't expect that. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What it feels like to lose everything. What it feels like to be the one people look past. And I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I leaned back. What do you want from me, Ethan? Nothing. I'm not here to ask for a job or money or forgiveness. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. And I wanted to tell you I'm proud of what you built. Even if I have no right to be. I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to tell him to leave, to let the door slam shut on this chapter of my life forever. But another part of me, the part that remembered being kids, playing in the backyard, building forts, laughing at stupid jokes, that part hesitated. You can't undo what you did, I said finally. And I'm not going to pretend we're fine. But I don't hate you, Ethan. I don't have the energy for that anymore. He nodded. That's more than I deserve. He stood. I'll go. Before he reached the door, I spoke. Ethan. He turned. If you want to rebuild your life, do it. But do it on your own terms. Don't do it to prove something to Dad or Mom or me. Do it because you actually want to be better. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Thanks. He left. I sat alone in my office, the city lights glittering through the window. My phone buzzed. A message from Jordan. Just saw Ethan leave. You okay? I typed back. Yeah. I'm good. And I was. Not because I'd forgiven him. But because I'd finally let go of the need for him to understand. I'd spent 5 years building something that proved I didn't need his approval, his validation, or his apology. I'd built it for me. And that was enough. 3 months later, Klair Dynamics and the newly restructured Harmon division hit record revenue. We expanded into 2 new markets and signed partnerships with 4 major tech firms. I was featured on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine with the headline "The Man Who Turned Rejection into Empire." The article detailed my story, the betrayal, the resignation, the rise. It was everywhere. My phone didn't stop ringing for weeks. Investors, media, speaking requests. Everyone wanted a piece of the narrative. But the strangest call came from Vanessa. I almost didn't pick up. It had been nearly 6 years since I'd seen her. But curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Edward, her voice was soft, tentative. It's me. I know. There was a pause. I saw the magazine. You look good. Thanks. Another pause. I wanted to apologize. For everything. I hurt you. I know that. And I'm sorry. I leaned back in my chair. Why now, Vanessa? Because I've had time to think. To realize what I gave up. What I destroyed. I didn't respond. She continued. I thought Ethan was the safer choice. He was charming, confident, easy. But he wasn't you. And I've regretted it every day since. I closed my eyes. I appreciate the apology. But it doesn't change anything. I know. I just needed you to hear it. I needed to say it out loud. Okay. She hesitated. Are you happy, Edward? I thought about it. Yeah. I am. Good. You deserve that. She hung up. I set the phone down and stared at it for a while. Then I deleted her number. Not out of anger. Just out of finality. That chapter was closed. A week later, my parents reached out. Not through Klair this time. They came to the office. Together. My assistant buzzed me, and I almost told her to send them away. But I didn't. I walked out to meet them. They stood in the lobby, looking out of place among the sleek furniture and bustling employees. My mother's hair was grayer. My father looked smaller, hunched. "Edward," my mother said, stepping forward. "Can we talk?" I led them to a private meeting room. We sat in silence for a moment before my father spoke. "We saw the article. We're proud of you." I didn't respond. My mother reached across the table. "We know we failed you. We see that now. And we're sorry." I looked at them both. "What do you want me to say?" "We don't want you to say anything," my father said. "We just wanted you to know. We were wrong. About a lot of things. But mostly about you." I felt something crack inside me. Not anger. Just sadness. It was too late for this to heal the way they might have hoped. But it was something. I stood. "I appreciate you coming. But I need time." My mother nodded, tears in her eyes. "We understand." They left. I watched them go. And for the first time in years, I felt lighter. Life continued. Klair Dynamics kept growing. We became the industry standard. I spoke at conferences, mentored young entrepreneurs, invested in startups. I built the life I'd always wanted. Not perfect, but mine. And every morning, when I walked into that office, I was reminded of the choice I made 5 years ago. The choice to leave. The choice to build. The choice to prove that I didn't need anyone's permission to be great. Because in the end, that's what freedom is. Not the absence of obstacles, but the refusal to let them define you. 7 years had passed since I walked out of Harmon Tech with nothing but a cardboard box and a plan sketched on the back of a napkin. 7 years since my brother stole my work and my fiancée decided he was the better investment. 7 years since I chose to stop asking for permission and started building my own table. And now, standing in front of a crowd of 3,000 people at the Global Tech Summit in Boston, I realized something strange. I'd stopped counting the years. Somewhere along the way, the betrayal had stopped being the story. The comeback had stopped being the story. What I'd built, who I'd become, that was the story now. The moderator, a sharp woman in her 40s with silver-rimmed glasses, leaned forward. "So Edward, you've said in previous interviews that anger was your initial fuel. Is that still what drives you?" I paused, considering the question. "No. Anger got me started. But anger burns out. What drives me now is purpose. I built Klair Dynamics to prove I could. But I sustain it because it matters. Because the people who work there matter. Because the clients we serve matter." She nodded. "And what about the personal cost? You've been very open about the betrayal you experienced. Do you ever regret how things unfolded?" I smiled slightly. "I regret the pain. I don't regret the outcome. If none of that had happened, I'd probably still be stuck in someone else's vision of my life. So no. I wouldn't change it." The applause was warm. Genuine. After the panel, I was swarmed by attendees wanting to shake my hand, ask questions, share their own stories of corporate betrayal and entrepreneurial risk. A young man, maybe 25, approached me with wide eyes. "Mr. Klair, I just wanted to say thank you. I was laid off 6 months ago. My manager took credit for a project I led. I've been paralyzed ever since, afraid to start over. But hearing you today, it made me realize I've been waiting for permission that's never coming." I looked at him. "What's your name?" "Daniel." I shook his hand. "Daniel, the hardest part isn't starting over. It's accepting that the people who hurt you don't have to apologize for you to move forward. You don't need their permission. You don't even need their regret. You just need your own conviction." He nodded, eyes damp. "Thank you." I watched him walk away and felt something shift. This was why I told my story. Not for revenge. Not for validation. but because someone else might need to hear that survival is possible. That evening, I had dinner with Melissa and Jordan at a quiet bistro overlooking the harbor. We toasted to another successful quarter. Klair Dynamics was now valued at over $200 million. We had offices in 8 cities. We employed over 400 people. The Harmon acquisition had been fully integrated, and the division was thriving under new leadership. To not burning out, Jordan said, raising his glass. To knowing when to walk away, Melissa added. I clinked my glass against theirs. To building something worth staying for. We ate in comfortable silence for a while before Melissa spoke again. Have you thought about what's next? I looked up. What do you mean? She leaned back. You've built an empire, Edward. You've proven every point you needed to prove. So what's next? Do you want to go public? Sell? Scale even bigger? Or do you want to do something completely different? I set down my fork. Honestly? I don't know. And that doesn't scare me anymore. Jordan grinned. That's growth. Melissa nodded. Just don't wait too long to figure it out. People like you don't do well sitting still. She wasn't wrong. But for the first time in years, I wasn't sprinting towards something. I was just present. That night, I walked along the harbor alone. The water was calm, reflecting the city lights in shimmering lines. My phone buzzed. A text from Klair. Hey. Mom's birthday is next month. She'd really love it if you came. No pressure. Just wanted you to know. I stared at the message. I hadn't been to a family gathering in over 5 years. But something in me had softened. Maybe it was time. I typed back. I'll think about it. She replied immediately. That's all I'm asking. 2 weeks later, I flew back to Seattle. I rented a car and drove to my parents' house. It was a Saturday afternoon. The driveway was full. Klair's car. My father's truck. And another car I didn't recognize. I sat in the rental for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. Then I got out. I knocked. Klair opened the door, face lighting up. You came. I stepped inside. The house smelled the same. Coffee and something baking. My mother appeared from the kitchen, apron on, flour on her hands. Edward. Mom. She wiped her hands and hugged me. I stood stiffly for a moment before hugging her back. My father came around the corner. Son. Dad. We shook hands. Formal. Distant. But present. Klair led me into the living room. And then I saw him. Ethan. He was sitting on the couch, thinner than I remembered, holding a cup of coffee. He looked up, startled. Edward. Ethan. We stared at each other. Klair cleared her throat. I'm going to help Mom in the kitchen. She disappeared. My father muttered something about checking the grill and left. It was just the two of us. I sat in the chair across from him. How have you been? He let out a dry laugh. Surviving. Barely. But surviving. I heard you're working again. He nodded. Yeah. Freelance consulting. Nothing glamorous. But it pays the bills. Good. He looked at me. I saw your keynote. Someone sent me the link. You were incredible. I didn't respond. He continued. I know I don't have the right to say this, but I'm proud of you. Not in the way I used to be, where I was jealous and resentful. I mean genuinely proud. I leaned forward. What changed? He set down his coffee. Losing everything. Realizing that the person I was trying to be wasn't even real. I was so busy trying to be someone Dad respected that I forgot to be someone I respected. And when it all fell apart, I had to face the fact that I did it to myself. I was the villain in my own story. And in yours. I nodded slowly. Yeah. You were. But you don't have to stay that way. He looked at me, surprised. What do you mean? I mean people change. If they want to. You destroyed a lot. But that doesn't mean you can't build something new. Just don't build it on someone else's back this time. He swallowed hard. I won't. I'm trying to be better. Trying to be honest. It's harder than I thought. I stood. Keep trying. That's all any of us can do. He stood too. Edward, I know I can't fix what I did. But if there's ever a way I can make it right, even a little, I will. I looked at him. You don't owe me anything, Ethan. But you owe yourself honesty. Start there. He nodded. I walked outside. The rest of the afternoon was surprisingly easy. We ate. We talked. We laughed at old stories. My mother kept glancing at me, like she was afraid I'd disappear if she looked away too long. My father asked about the business, genuinely interested for the first time. Claire told jokes. Ethan stayed quiet mostly, but he smiled. And for a few hours, it felt almost normal. Not healed. But human. When I left, my mother walked me to the car. Thank you for coming. I hugged her. Thanks for inviting me. She pulled back, eyes searching mine. Are you happy, Edward? I thought about it. Yeah. I really am. Good. That's all I ever wanted for you. Even if I didn't show it the right way. I got in the car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the driveway, waving. I waved back. 6 months later, Clair Dynamics announced a new initiative. A mentorship program for young professionals who'd been overlooked, underestimated, or pushed out of opportunities they deserved. We called it Second Draft. The idea was simple. Everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their story. We partnered with universities, coding boot camps, and professional organizations. We offered paid internships, skills training, and direct pathways to full-time roles. The response was overwhelming. Within 3 months, we had over 2,000 applications. We accepted 50. One of them was a woman named Aisha. She'd been fired from her previous job after her manager took credit for a campaign she designed. She'd spent a year rebuilding her confidence. When I met her during orientation, she told me she'd read my story and it gave her hope. I shook her hand. You didn't need my story, Aisha. You just needed permission to believe in yourself again. Consider this that permission. She smiled. Thank you. Watching her and the other men's grow over the following months reminded me why I'd built this company in the first place. It wasn't about market dominance or revenue. It was about creating space for people who'd been told they didn't belong. It was about proving that rejection isn't the end. It's just redirection. 1 year later, I stood on stage at our annual company retreat. 400 employees filled the room. I looked out at them, faces eager, hopeful, invested. This company exists because I was told I wasn't enough. Because someone stole my work and my future, and I had to decide whether to shrink or grow. I chose to grow. And every single one of you is proof that the right choice wasn't revenge. It was building something better. The applause was deafening. That night, I sat alone in my hotel room, looking out over the city. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something made me open it. Edward, this is Vanessa. I know I have no right to reach out. But I wanted you to know I'm getting help. Therapy. Real work on myself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to thank you. Watching you build what you built taught me that running from your mistakes doesn't work. You have to face them. I'm trying to do that now. I hope you're well. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. I'm glad you're doing the work. That takes courage. Good luck. I didn't add anything else. I didn't need to. I set the phone down and realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just free. 2 years later, Klair Dynamics went public. The IPO was a massive success. We raised $300 million in the first day of trading. I rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Jordan and Melissa stood beside me. Klair flew out to watch. Even my parents came. It was surreal. When the bell rang, I felt nothing but gratitude. Not for the money. Not for the validation. But for the journey. For every painful step that led me here. That evening, we celebrated. Jordan gave a speech about the early days, the ramen budgets, the all-nighters. Melissa toasted to the future. And I stood at the center of it all, surrounded by people I trusted, people I'd chosen, and I realized this was the life I'd always wanted. Not perfect. Not painless. But mine. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run through Central Park. The city was just waking up. The air was crisp. And as I ran, I thought about the boy I used to be. The one who believed that if he worked hard enough, people would see him. The one who thought family meant unconditional support. The one who trusted too easily and forgave too quickly. That boy was gone. But he wasn't lost. He'd evolved. Into someone stronger. Someone wiser. Someone free. And that was the real victory. Not the money. Not the company. Not the recognition. But the freedom to become who I was meant to be, without permission, without apology, without limits. Years later, I'd be asked in interviews what advice I'd give to someone starting over after betrayal. And I'd always say the same thing. Don't wait for an apology. Don't wait for justice. Don't wait for anything. Just start. Build something. Anything. Build it with honesty. Build it with integrity. Build it with people who see you. And one day, you'll look around and realize you didn't just survive. You created a life worth living. And that's the best revenge there is. Not because it hurts them. But because it frees you. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.